to our Climate Smart Agriculture Compliance Training Workshop. We'd like to thank everybody for taking the time out to be here today, because we know we have a lot of things going on today. And we had some extension officers that couldn't make it because they had to be they can't be in two different places, so we had to balance it out. So I just want to say thank you again for everybody for coming. We have to make a slight amendment to the agenda. So the introduction to the High Nature Value Index, this would be taken off the agenda. And my colleague will explain in a while. With us here from the regional project team, we have Mr. Trevor Thompson and Ms. Candace Thompson. Trevor Thompson is the project manager, and Ms. Candace Thompson is the capacity building officer for the project. So on this note, I will welcome Mr. Carl Augustine to give some brief welcome remarks.
I would just like to say thank you for participating in this most important training session. As we know, when we did it in the convention of UNCCP, we have what we call our land degradation neutrality levels that we want to actually meet, right? And part of that, you have a system of integrated land management with a focus on sustainable use. And part of that is the ability to be able to produce food in a changing and varied climate system, right? Also, our food production systems have to be made not just more productive and efficient, but less destructive on the soil, right? So we are transitioning to agroforestry, but we also transition into what we may consider called climate smart agriculture, where we will also be utilizing some of the traditional best practices, some of the changes in husbandry that will bring you more sustainable results. But we also embracing the emerging technology, right, and make use of those modern aid to make what we do more efficient, to optimize on our efforts and so on, right? I know that part of the discussion today is going to be on this app and so on.
Yes.
I would say that, though I'm not familiar with the particular app that is being presented or taught to you, I know that those type of apps are are essential, are becoming essential tools that can actually allow you to be able to mine a lot of data, to collect a lot of information on every farmer, from every farmer that you interact with. And by having now the proper type of interface, you could do anything with that information, from collaborating pest and disease management and control, that fits in nicely with your IPM, But you also now have from a thing of saying, hey, can we actually integrate our production to know straight off where we do not flood the market with certain types of crops? Do we actually look at how do we quickly share some of the best practices? Now, I know that, for example, a success of utilizing technology and farm integration can be seen in Florida, where, for example, the tech that is developed on the bigger farms are quickly shared with the smaller farms, because they recognize that, hey, I cannot control pest and disease in my zone without my neighbors also controlling pest and disease in their zone. So if I have a more efficient and more cost-effective approach, that information is quickly filtered out, and we can move forward with our benefits, right? So, I would just like to once again, on behalf of the Chief Forest Officer, just welcome you all to this training. And I know, and I'm happy to see that there is an integrated amount of faces there, extension, forestry, and different, what you call it again, different little approaches. So, have a good training. I will be with you all for a brief movement this morning. So I know that you all will actually get some positive results, right? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now we move on to the training, rationale and expectations. I will read from my script. Climate smart agriculture is gaining international interest as a strategy to reduce climate change effects. The CSAC tool is a registered and legally acceptable method for assessing compliance levels for projects, procedures, and goods. It provides a comprehensive approach to interpreting the advantages of climate smart agriculture, allowing organizations to evaluate farmers' practices and develop sustainable brands. CSAC has 5 categories of compliance and provides a replicable analysis matrix using scalar approaches to convert qualitative assessments into a numeric compliance scale. Each project, process, or product under review is subjected to a total of 20 questions. Scores of less than 40 indicate non-compliance. CSAC is crucial for CSIDS to effectively manage climate change challenges and ensure food security, enabling organizations to access farmers, climate smart practices, and develop sustainable brands. The aim of this workshop is to train persons that they are able to go out and train other people in the use of the CSAC compliant tool and some of the contracts that may come with when you use that tool, and you'll get more information when my 2 colleagues present. So the objective of the training is to build the trainer's capacity in the CSAC compliant tool as a means to validate climate smart practice. So on that note, I will ask Mr. Maxime, who is the person that is providing, the person that came up with the whole idea for climate smart agriculture compliance tool. I will call on him now to give us a little more information on the tool and how it can be used in our day-to-day activities. Ms. Thompson? Ms. Thompson? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry, he's not on us yet. I'm trying to get him, so would you be able to proceed?
Yes.
And I'll just let you know when you're done.
Yes,
sorry about that.
That's okay. So once he comes in, you can let us know, and we will turn to him for his presentation. Thank you very much, Ms. Thompson. So as we move on, I ask Ms. Ford to give us, yes. Oh, so introduction of participants. So I'll ask Mr. Francois to give us a little icebreaker while we do the introduction of participants.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Francois.
Thank you very much, Ms. Collins. Okay, I have my own, meaning for the term forestry. And I would say forestry is the arts, the sciences, okay, for the conservation of our forest ecosystems, okay, whether it is a swamp forest or maybe an elephant forest, okay. Now I know everyone here has their own personal relationship, okay, with a forestry, okay, or somebody here may have their favorite forestry, okay, situated, whether it is in a dry forest ecosystem or maybe a wet forest ecosystem or even the tropical rainforest that exists on St. Lucia. So I will start by telling you what my favorite forestry is and my reasons for having that tree to be my favorite forestry. Okay? So my favorite forestry, okay, is what we call the Gommier. Okay, the G-O-N-M-Y-E, the Gommier, or the Dacryotes excelsa. Okay, and the Dacryotes excelsa is situated in the tropical rainforest ecosystems in St. Lucia. Okay, it is very important to us right now. Okay, and it was very important to the Amerindians, the native people to St. Lucia. Okay, now the Dacryolis excelsa was used for the making of dug out canoes. Okay, and can still be practiced now, where we could utilize that species for dug out canoes. Okay, but one of the most important aspects of the Dacryolis excelsa, or the Gormier, is the use of the sap of the Dacryolis excelsa. It is a medicinal plant. That sap, you could use it maybe for rubbing, okay, make a balm with it, okay, where you could, you know, rub out these sprains from your muscles. Also, the sap is very flammable, okay? If anybody wants to make, you know, a fire, you could just strike a match at the Dacryolis excelsa sap, and we will have a flame. Okay? Torches are also being made from the branches of the Dacryolis excelsa. Okay, you make bristles at one end, a handle on the other end, and you just put the bristles into the fire and you have a torch that would last for the night. Okay? So this is my favorite forest tree. And I would like everybody here, okay, to tell us, okay, which species of tree is their favorite, okay, and why it is their favorite. Okay? And also, I would like to know your name before you introduce that tree to us. Okay? So as I said, my name is Sean Francois, and my favorite tree is the Dacryolis excelsa, and I would like you guys to tell us your names and which species are your favorite tree.
So, good morning everyone. My name is Nicholas Doxley from Region 2 Extension Office. I would say that my favorite forest plant for a tree would be the mahogany. Reason being is that it's a tough wood and you can get a high quality lumber from it. So that's why it's my favorite tree.
One question is, how does it relate to you?
How does it relate to me as a person?
Good morning, everyone. I will not be able to go in depth as he, but my favorite plant, or tree in the rainforest, is the eucalyptus plant. I like the vibrant colors of the bark, and I like it. I use it at my home to just, like when you have a flu, you could use it for the fumes and whatnot, so I like it for that.
My name is Tiffany Suraj, and unfortunately I don't have a favorite forest tree, but I guess when I leave here I will have a favorite one. Oh, yes, that's it.
So you have no idea, you cannot name any forest species?
Or flowers?
Tree, flower, or anything.
Well, my favorite fruit tree is the sugar apple.
Oh, nice. And how do you think it relates to you as a person, you know?
How would I say it? It might seem rough on the outside, but it's very sweet inside.
Thank you very much for that one.
Morning, my name is Aaron Donovan. Like she just said, to me it's not a favorite tree I have, but there's a plant we use like in the construction of houses to support the buildings. Loicanen, I think is the name. I've never seen the plant. So my curiosity is I really need to see a Loicanen plant. And the forestry people, please help me, because I've always been hearing talk and the importance, the history, but I've never seen the tree. All I see is the root where people use it to support homes. So if you can assist me, I'll be pleased. But like I love blue maho because of the architectural qualities of it. I think I saw a blue maho cabinet in somebody's home, and I wish I was living in that person's house. Seriously, it blew me away, you know. I was taken, it was all out of this world. A blue maho cabinet in a house. It was amazing. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Chris Flavius, Region 4 Extension. My favorite forest tree, I'll say, maybe a water. Probably I don't know what I say. It sends a little
Which one?
Okay. The one I know. It's such a little berry. Yeah, so like sometimes you find the forest and that's the only thing you would get to eat it.
Sour, Bataouche.
The yellow one.
The yellow one.
Yeah.
So how do you think that relates to you and your personality and your everyday living?
Well, it's very scarce, but it's there.
I like that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Augustine.
Yeah. Carl Augustine. My favorite, well, it's not necessarily my favorite, but the tree that I will not forget is the Cordia Celestena. And that is, you see the cordia plant, decorative plant they have around the just by the cathedral, around the square. You know that there's that white fruit. Now, my first year of I'm doing my forestry engineering degree, you know, that was the plant I had to find seeds, replicate, and plant seedlings of by the end of the year. There was only one in the province. So that caused me a lot of anxiety. That was a plan that I will not forget.
Yes.
You know, there was only like half a page of information written about it, at least in the books people actually had access to. So, yeah. But it's a nice plant and actually have a very nice wood, although it is not utilized for that. But you could actually make some wood canes and so on from it. It's a wood that is, has a nice dark brown color, although it is not exploited in our region, right? Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you.
Morning, Damon Regis, Region 5. I'm a Castries fellow, so we don't really have to say trees, per se trees, and that kind of stuff. If I had to select a tree, Boaden tree. What I like about it? Well, it's good for tea. That's I can say good for tea.
Do you see yourself, can you relate to that quality on a day-to-day in your personal life?
Oh yeah. You know, like when you drink of water, you see that fire? Like that.
Yes.
I can relate to
To
that.
All right. Thank you very much. The other one, Mr. Christophe.
My name is Devon Christophe. Honestly, I literally can't think of any tree I never did in the forest. But if I was to pick one, I would probably choose the strangest one, and be for those who don't know what the green is, it's this palm, the entire stem has prickles on it. And the reason I would say it relates is just basically if you touch it, feel.
Alright, thank you very much.
Yeah, but from my favorite tree for now, I would say is the white cedar poi. Because I'm into building some A-frames made out of local wood. So I could rent out to people on my farm. So that's one of my favorite trees for now.
For now,
Yeah.
it's doing the job for you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mitchell.
Two of my favorite trees, some people already mentioned, so I have to get another one. And I'll choose Gomye Moti. I guess everyone knows that. The one you find out in dry forest. And I can relate to this tree as we are in the setting of climate smart agriculture. And that's the tree. I'll use the signal of it, the fallen leaves, to determine when to start my farming and when to stop my farming.
Oh wow, very nice.
Charmaine Donovan Augustine, Forestry, Hillet Range. I choose the Blue Mau Hibiscus Elatus. Simply because it's beautiful inside and out.
It's almost like you.
is Kishwaloi from Region 3 Extension, and I do not have a favorite forestry until the question was posed this morning. The thought never crossed my mind. However, one of the trees that I do know of is the mahogany, because we had a miniature mahogany forest on my father's farm. So he had the land there for a period of time, and the one tree planted with hundreds of babies. They need to be spaced out, and I love mahogany furniture, as Donovan said earlier.
Nancy Landell Forestry. My favorite forestry would probably have to be mahogany as well, because I like the Lucia.
The reason for this exercise is just goes to show that we are extension, we are forestry, we're supposed to be working hand in hand. And sometimes the thought never crosses your mind, the importance of the forest, some of the trees that are in the forest. How can it help me do my work and do it better? And as Nuria said, it's a perfect example. I was hoping that somebody would kind of use it back in the context, that sometimes the trees in the forest can be a signal to us. Whether we're planting, whatever it is, it can be a signal to us, and I think we can take better stock to understand the forest, understand why we have clean water, understand why we have the air that we breathe is cleaner, and we can help pass it on. So whatever that we do, the forest is like the pillar to bring everything back to us. So thank you everybody for taking part in our icebreaker, and I'm hoping that as we move on, we are able to think of the forest and how do we marry it with the work that we do. As we move on, I will call on Ms. Ford so she can start with the meat of the matter for us and to get the ball rolling.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you a lot for being here, like Lucia said. We had a larger crowd, unfortunately, because of all the activities being held in the ministry presently. We have a lot of clashing events. So again, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go into the meat of the matter, which is this project. The soil care project has it's been implemented in most countries, as you can see the flags are represented there, and it's for small island developing states, right? So we are in the process of teaching persons in all those islands how to manage their lands properly, landscaping, restoration, and climate resilient food system. The soil care and climate smart agriculture, this project has a mandate to operate and identify hotspots or places that have problems with whether it be livestock, whether it be forestry, whether it be extension in the various countries, and those countries are responsible for identifying it, right? And climate smart agriculture is a comprehensive aspect. A lot of us, when we hear of, it's not, oh, we in the small island developing states, we have heard a lot of climate smart agriculture. That's all over the place. But do we have any tools that could actually assess your operations and tell you, okay, you have a climate smart agriculture process or practices being done on your farm? So this project is seeing to this, and hence we have the training for the officers here today. Okay? Okay, so this project, the soil care project, has chosen the CSAP, which is the Climate Smart Agriculture Compliance Tool, as a means of assessing your operations on your farm. And it is a legally binding tool. It is accepted across the Caribbean. The adaptation to the Climate Smart Agricultural Tool will be assisting us in assessing different actions on the farm, including training aids for officers. So you could take a farmer from point A to point B. Another thing I would like to put in is that the tool, you would use probably your resources like your land and your water resources, if you're doing water resource management, and you, in your head as a farmer, you would say, okay, I am doing climate smart procedures or practices, but that is just one aspect of it, right? So the tool will encompass all of that. If the auditing component of it is for the officers. So if you have a farmer, the farmer may want to assess himself privately, he will answer the questions properly. But you cannot allow the farmer to assess for himself because he will not be truthful. We know, all of us inside of there know that. So the officers can use it as an auditing tool to know where the farmer is at in terms of production and his practices, and to take him from where he is, point A to point B. Also, we could use this system to help us market, project ourselves. We are selling green products, eco-friendly products, also smart contracts with our buyers. All that would encompass what the tool entails, and we'll elaborate lower down. Do you all have any questions?
We said smart contract.
The smart contract is basically being that we could, how would I put that for you? We will elaborate, we have a whole section of it, but the smart contract is basically what the tool can carry in terms of the 5 arms. You could actually go and prove to your buyers, okay, I am doing this at this point, I am doing this, and all of this pertain to climate smart agriculture. And I can prove to you that it is that. So you could get contracts and benefits from it. Pardon?
I was just saying, of course, because everybody wants to use green things now in their business
And
to prove their dedication to society.
And sometimes because you are not, it's not a holistic approach, you just say that as word of mouth. So it has to be across the board. All right, so CSAP is a proven tool for training, like I said, and it has a comprehensive framework. So it carries all the components of climate smart agriculture, right? It's a self-assessing tool, like I said, and you could also use it on any size operation. You can use it as a project, you can use it as livestock, you can use it for crop production, and not only that, when you are doing the assessment, it's not the entire farm when it comes to the crop production. It's just one component. So you have a field, you have an acre, you have watermelon on one side, you have cucumbers on one side. Each of these would be a project or a crop. So you do it individually. Do you understand that? So the next crop, when you get the next crop, you will see, okay, well, I did this and I had a compliance of 1, but what I did the other way, instead of using drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, you use drip irrigation, so it will bring your macro. Okay, but Nicholas will elaborate when we get into the manual, because it breaks it down further. All right, proof of adaptation. So, like I said earlier on, the tool will assist us in proving that what you say you're doing on the farm is what is being practiced, and then you move forward like this. Also, the marketing, it assists if you're labeling. You could say you have a green farm, you have the eco-friendly farm, and so forth.
Question.
Yes.
So you talk about labeling stuff. Wouldn't you not have collaborations in some Bureau standards pertaining to, in a sense of the labeling, and even when you stating that you're
now, this tool, you can go with bureaus of standards, you could go to them and tell them, okay, I have done the assessment, whether if it was an auditing component of it, that is your proof to say, yes, I can put this on my label.
So if I can add, so the tool is a patented tool, it is registered, so you would have to have that, the founder would have the dialogue with Bureau of Standards, and ensure that they accept it as a standard that they would work with, and thereafter you as a farmer can, or we as the officers can bring your information across to them.
Okay, so in the sense of auditing, so auditing is done by the extension officers. Would Bureau standards do any auditing as well? Just to in the sense of, if we, let's say, miss something, that's
The tool is developed in a way that once you have gone through the manual, anybody would be able to do the assessment. And like I said, it's an accepted tool. So the Bureau of Standards, they were part and parcel of the formulation of this tool.
Okay.
So it's accepted.
And the trainers, the evaluators are certified as well.
So you will have, so we are certified.
You will be certified. Well, that's what we're doing here now.
We're getting more money.
Yeah. Devon.
You mentioned, speaking about farmers, right? What financial gain would that be of any financial gain?
I didn't get that.
Would that be of any financial gain for the farmers? When you addressing farmers, first we like to hear the money.
Now that's one concept. In terms of the tool being used and the financial aspect of it, when you get to the marketing aspect, you go to the buyer, being that this is a green product, you could ask, you have your records and everything, you could ask, you could fetch for a higher price.
But it's not guaranteed to get
It's not guaranteed, but you could, and you have the proof to back what you say.
So my point I'm going to ask you, sorry, I don't mean to start making moves in your thing there. With all of the tool that you're talking about, is there any financial implications? Do I have to spend more money in my production cycle? Because it must be feasible at the end of the day. If it's not, if I am following your recommendation, using the tool at the end, and I'm not being properly
You will see at the end. During the manual, you will get
I pretty much pressure.
It's not pressure here. It's the good agricultural practice aspect of it. So even before the tool was there, you know using sprinklers, it was not an efficient way of irrigating, right? This just forces you now, if you want to have those smart contracts, or you want to fetch a higher price at the market, and that you want to map your production as being climate smart agriculture, this tool is there to facilitate that.
Yeah. I think if I were to ask anybody, do any of us buy organic? We go to the supermarket and we pick up organic. Right? Well, just the loose term, right? Now the thing is, how many persons can say, yes, this is organic? What does it mean when we say we are buying something organic? We don't know. A lot of the time we just figure out, somebody say organic, we just go to the store. Sometimes we might even pay a little more because we figure out, but we have no kind of standards. We have nothing to monitor, to say to us, what are we buying? So with this tool, it's a very comprehensive tool, and you will obviously you'll have to have a lot of stakeholder engagement, you'll have to have funding agencies, because it's something that we're trying to adopt. So obviously there is a lot of groundwork that has to happen, but once we understand where we need to go, then you'll start getting traction, because people recognize now that this is something that is recognized. If I follow these things, and like she was saying before, Miss Ford, sorry, a lot of the things the farmers that say they want to do climate smart, they already practice. But it's just that to zone in on these things that you can get. Pardon? Yes, and then at the end of the day, you would be able to now to say yes.
So let me ask you, when you say climate smart agriculture, are you stating in the sense of trying to move away or more synthetic, work on more synthetic types of chemicals?
We haven't even gotten to the meat.
Sorry, I wrong for that too.
Yes.
Just well, freaking. One is, do you recognize that farmers do not like the idea, a lot of farmers don't like the idea of contract. So you go in and say, well, you have a contract, you're signing on for certain things. This is something that is difficult to get.
Yes, it is.
You even have that when, let's say, even in the heyday of the grain boom, a lot of farmers were very skeptical about signing anything. So that's going to be a challenge. Secondly, do you all have on the profile of the farm, the type of production that you all are looking at?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so that is something that has to be, it has to be, that is essential. Because you cannot go speaking to every farmer about this. You will not get the acceptance. Right? So you must have your profile of who is more likely to accept or to be practicing, as you say.
Yes.
And then you target them. The third thing is, and never brought that up, which is what is the direct benefit? I think you must, and I think probably speaking to early too, you must look at from the market back. The farmer must understand from the start that, hey, I am going to get money or access or whatever it is from doing what it is you're asking me to do. Because it may translate to me doing my work. You know? Yes, I might be doing my climate smart stuff, but the mere fact I have to document and send to you, that is a cost point for me on my farm. So how do I mitigate that? So I think that these are, from me, just from the start of what has been said, is what actually jumps out at the times.
We have to meet the presentation.
Yeah, so I say based on the discussion.
So yes, we just had a little dialogue, but as we continue, Ms. Paul will give us a little more information.
Yes, that's what I'm telling them.
Yes,
When
so
as we go into the presentation, all of those questions and concerns will be answered.
No, it just goes so you listen and we're happy for that.
All right. So, climate smart agriculture is often seen, like I mentioned earlier on, as one or two practices. So somebody doing contouring, somebody doing rainwater harvesting or composting, in their minds, they would believe, okay, I have a climate smart practice being done on my farm, I'm climate smart. But it's not that. By definition, a way of proving a comprehensive practice, including in mitigation and adaptation. So it's a holistic thing, it's not just one of it. Understand, Damian? I'm speaking to you.
So if I can add, so we need to distinguish the two between adaptation and mitigation. So adaptation would be those practices that the farmer would encourage the farmers to accept in order to cushion them against the effects of climate change. Mitigation, on the other hand, would be the practices that we would encourage, that would reduce the carbon footprint, essentially reducing the emission of like carbon dioxide. So you kind of preventing the production of those harmful gases.
Cut on the emissions.
Just to make up, like, sorry, I apologize.
You don't have to finish it.
He has no idea what to get to a woman.
Because
I'm just saying, if you look at the small island states like us, our carbon footprint.
We are aware of that, David.
Minuscule. Say, you know, there's not enough footprint. That's like a fresh breeze, I would say.
Yeah, but okay.
We are aware of it, but we still want to minimalize our emissions.
Yeah, you want that, and let me just, if I can just add, because we're looking at it from the perspective of your carbon footprint, but think of it as more. Because if you look at our production system now, it is heavily import-based, and that now creating two sets of issues for you, in that it is carbon intense, because you transported something from halfway around the world, your fertilizers, your pesticides, in some cases even your packaging and then your tech, coming from halfway around the world, producing it locally. And then it also now making you very vulnerable whenever you have any disruption in your supply chain. So any war, any this, any reason, in fuel price, you have a cascading impact on it. So when you say carbon footprint, it will actually not, it will mask the fact that what you're saying is your money you spend it. So let's imagine now, if you can shorten that supply chain, it means that you are lowering your carbon that you produce, but what it also means is you're bringing it closer to you and you're making it less cost intensive for you. So for example, a simple strategy that we slow on picking up is things like the composting, bionutrients, right?
Yeah, jumping the gun, because we are going to go.
Okay,
So what I'm going to do at this point, I will hold on the question. You all have your notepads. Could you jot down if you have anything that you have to, so that we could move forward?
Yes.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're going to be answering those questions. All right. So, climate smart agriculture is meant to improve food security and agricultural productivity. So whatever actions you take, it has to improve in terms of you're not degrading with the resources that are given to you. You are leaving it for another generation. It increased resilience in farming system and smart climate change adaptations, like Nicholas explained to you. And while doing all of that, it's capturing the potential mitigations for co-benefits. So that is, in a nutshell, this is what climate smart agriculture is. Now we are moving right. Okay. So the operating arms, or the different practices or categories, there are 5 of them. We have the we have the resource conservation, we have the use of energy, we have safety, we have biodiversity support, and greenhouse gas reduction. So like I mentioned earlier on, if you are just probably you're doing rainwater harvesting for the resource conservation, which is adaptation, that does not tell you you are doing a climate smart agriculture production. All of those categories you are seeing there presently is equal across the board. You have to partake in all of them with the different subcategories as well to prove that your operations, your projects, your procedure is climate smart. Do you all understand that?
So if I can interject. So like Ms. Ford said, climate smart agriculture, especially the CSAC tool, it takes a holistic approach to climate smart agriculture. So if I can use Mr. Maximin's example of describing what that holistic approach is. You're a driver, most of us may be driving. If you are to change your brakes on the vehicle alone, would that make you a safe driver? So I'm basically saying, in order to be a safe driver, you cannot just do one practice. You need to take that holistic approach, you service on time, your regular maintenance. So just like with climate smart agriculture, you take that holistic approach.
Okay, so we are moving in the core of the CSAC aggregate score for the 20 questions. So we are moving into the tool now. Right? So there are 4 questions per, there are 4, I'm not going to look at that. There are 4 questions, subcategory. You have the 5 categories which was mentioned, and you have 4 subcategories for each of them. Each of them carries 5 points. So for energy use, you have 4 subcategories, and each of those categories are 5 points. So the category itself carries 20 points. So when you add everything together, you have an aggregate score of 100 points. If you cannot score of 40, you are non-compliant, or it's not climate smart. So if you have a 49 and below, which means that you would have to score a 2 or less than a 2, sorry, in all of the different categories. Your production would be non-compliant.
Penalties for that? Sorry.
I beg your pardon?
Okay, there's no question, go ahead.
No, I can take it, Kishma.
Will there be penalties for not meeting the standard?
But under the tool, no.
No.
Because it's an independent tool and it's not mandatory that it's not enforced by any law. So there's no penalty. It's something that if you are interested in it, you would accept it, but it's not something that's mandatory, so it cannot be.
We have not reached that point yet.
Naturally, there would be penalties, but legally, no. Because if you continue with your traditional practices, there are going to be implications. So in that sense, there is some form of a penalty for adverse effect, but legally not.
It will not be considered green. All right, so we are moving on to the compliance levels. We have levels from 1 to 5, and as you can see this stamp right there, this is what the product or the project will be stamped with, and you would have the score at the bottom indicating what level your production is at, right? So from level 1, which is a nil, would be 40 to 49 points. A level 2, which is a fair, would be 50 to 59 points. A level 3, which is an average, would be, good morning, 60 to 69 points. A level 4, which is deemed good, is a 70 to 79 points. And a level 5, which is a excellent, is a 80 to 100 points. Based on the video that was shared with us, the closest, I believe, Mr. Maximin said that an operation is a gentleman, Ken Farm in Trinidad. I believe he was a level 3, and he did a lot of those practices, and he was still not able to get to an excellent or a level 5. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot, because as an extensionist presently, and seeing the operations on the various farms that I'm going on, a number of our farmers may not even reach the compliance level of 1. So we have a lot of work on the ground to do to take our clients from below our level 1 to at least a level 2 in operations. All right. So like I was saying earlier on, the resource conservation has 4 subcategories, and we have land use, water use, nutrients use, and labor, right? So with the land use, you would look at how do you go about producing. If you have an acre of land, would you just clear the entire acre of land and just use 10% on it for production? So it's how efficient you use those products, the space. For rainwater harvesting, yes, you have a rainwater harvesting thing on your farm, a system on your farm, but you are operating in a watershed. You have runoff, you're contaminating the water below. So you still wouldn't be climate smart at the end of the day. So all that has to be taken into consideration. Nutrients, where do you get your nutrients from? Are you doing composting? Are you doing manure? Are you doing agrochemicals? Fossil fuel is involved in transporting those goods. So all that is taken into consideration. For labor, a lot of us, we don't think about labor in terms of how it impacts the environment. What's the term we are looking for? Mine is not serving me right now. So for labor, do you have the right tools for harvesting? Your worker comes there, you give him a knife to go and harvest, dashing. Is that effective? That's wasting your resources. If you you want to irrigate something, instead of using a bucket to pour at the stem of the plant, you use a watering can. So you make use of the tools, the necessary tools for the activities.
Can I ask if you got,
Mhm.
if you got people to work for you?
If you don't have?
People.
If you don't have people to work for you?
Yes.
I don't understand.
You don't have laborers.
You are the ones doing it? So if you don't have laborers,
you don't have the manpower.
Okay.
The manpower.
But are you the one executing the labor on the farm?
Myself and my workers.
You just don't have laborers.
I mean like myself. I the manager, I own the farm, but then I could only execute a certain number of activities. I carry a number of activities throughout the day. If I had more persons, I could have carried a lot more. If my
I understand what you say, but the example I gave you is having the right tool for the right activity.
And not just having, in addition.
To a labor.
Okay, you want to pick. Give me a crop, somebody.
Breadfruit.
Pardon? Breadfruit. You need a ladder. You need a cali. There are certain things that you need to execute that job efficiently. If you do not have them, that means you are not using your labor force effectively.
Even a simple thing as not
pruning your tree. Okay, let's say you're going to harvest watermelon.
I get what
you just break the stalk instead of using a secateur to harvest.
I understand what you say, but I'm just saying, wouldn't that not be in a different category in the sense of labor being a manpower, but tools looking at the tools and equipment?
Another thing with this tool, the subcategories, they overlap. So you would find safety. You will look at safety, you will get safety for labor. You will get transportation on several other of the subcategories. So it overlaps, sorry. Okay? Are you okay?
I'm okay, you know.
Alright.
I don't think we've understood what he's trying to say.
I don't think so.
And I don't think he has explained himself.
I don't think he has explained himself well.
Okay, understand. You have labor, you have your labor force. You mean that you have physical persons working on your farm. When you're talking about tools, it's a separate category by itself. If you have the tools to carry out whatever that you need, but your labor force is literally the physical person that you have to carry the job. But I'm saying that if I'm lacking in the sense of manpower to execute, that's where I would say labor comes into play. If I have 10 acres and they want to also manage the 10 acres, I'm looking at the physical manpower. But then when you talk about tools, then that should be a separate category in the sense of, do you have a knapsack sprayer? Do you have this? Do you have that? And that.
But is the labor operated in here?
So if I can add to what I said. So what this section of labor, it doesn't deal so much with the energy that is put out by the workers, but it deals particularly with the maintenance and the efficient use of your tools. That's what it deals with.
By your workers.
Yes.
By the workers.
Okay. The efficiency of your tools. So if your tools are well maintained,
I get you.
Pardon?
No, I understand what you're saying. So they use tools and labor as one subcategory at the end of the day. That's what I get you.
Okay, so we have power usage, energy usage, sorry. So you have power, you have lighting, you have the input manufacture, and you have transportation, right? So the power aspect is, where do you get your power from? Whether you get it off the grid, whether you get it off solar panels, do you get it from a windmill? Where is the source of your power from on the farm? So based on that, as we go into the manual, the determinants, we will expand on that a bit more. For the lighting, is what type of bulbs you use on your farm? Are you using energy savers? Are you using the regular bulbs? Are you using, does it have the right wattages vis-a-vis the lumen? You have to take all that into consideration.
And when we speak to farms, we also speak referring to agro-processing facilities, so not merely where the primary production occurs, but also where you have your secondary production.
The houses?
Yes.
So you want to ensure that you have that, like you have that water matching system, so you don't just have bulbs that are just wasting electricity. You want to, what it's called?
Incandescent bulbs.
Yes. So, and also, we have the technology that does put on light. So you want to utilize those technology to reduce the wastage of energy.
All right. In terms of input manufacture, how do you get your inputs? Do you order it? Do you have to do sea freight? Do you have to fly? Does it have to use a transport to bring it on the farm? All that is within fossil fuel. So if you could generate some of your, like your manures and your composting on your farm, this will cut this out totally. And we look at transportation. Those vehicles, yes, they use fossil fuel, but do you all maintain them? How often do you service those vehicles? Do you keep a log frame of your servicing? Do you use a hybrid vehicle or a panel vehicle with AC, the right to go and get your produce to the market? So all that is taken into consideration, and when we get to the program, the Excel at the back of the app, when we explain the manual, that would be, some more light will be shed on that as well. Okay, so the biodiversity safety. Safety, you have product operations, you have harvesting, you have storage, and you have utilization, right? So for product operations, how safe is your operations on your farm? What's the layout of your building structure? If you have a pack house, was it purposely built to be a pack house or just a shed house? And then you just block it up and you put stuff in there. Do you, your storeroom, does it encompass your agrochemicals, your produce, your tools? So all that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, how safe is it?
So whether you follow the building code, whether your building itself is fit for purpose, that's the most important.
Pardon?
Because I have a question like that
But it's not all the farmers at once that will get there. You will get farmers that would want to adapt this. You work with them, and with the other farmers seeing what the benefits are. They may not all in one take up everything, but they gradually, it's a gradual process. They will get there.
I understand what we're trying to do, right? I understand it. I get what we're trying to achieve. But then the question that I have is that we now speaking about this form and all of that. Are we actually tested that out to see how will the farmers be willing to accept it?
It has been tested in other countries. We have gone out
in other countries.
That's why we are doing it now here.
Because I heard you speaking and I'm listening to you, and right now I'm seeing like you. I'm not a farmer, but I have worked with farmers and trust me.
But here, y'all are taking this approach as yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Steve is on. I think it would be appropriate for him to provide some context.
No problem. You are using a whole bunch of urea, and when it rains, all that's washed into the stream, and it affects the water supply lower downstream. So all this, you have to be mindful of it when you're doing your operations. Limited access, we spoke about the invasive species, microclimate modification, percolation, runoff into the ravine and impact. So this aspect of it in terms of biodiversity, that is what we are looking at. Do you all see how this can affect the environment or your process or your practices?
Can I add, for example, let's say I'm practicing my agricultural system, and I'm at the phase where I want to do some land clearing, okay? And I have an agriculture plot, maybe about 1 acre, and I'm looking at clear cutting or clearing the whole land vis-a-vis, you know, conservation tillage. Like I
think I mentioned that earlier on. So
okay.
It takes that into consideration.
So in a sense, if I would be using more fuel, more energy to do that clear cutting, whereas if I use conservation tillage, I'll be plowing one small area per the tree that I'm gonna put down there. So in a sense, I will be like saving fuel, saving energy, and I will be utilizing like the climate smart activity if I do that conservation tillage vis-a-vis the clear cutting.
Yes. So in the manual, it depicts that. If you have, this is one way of grading in terms of the different levels. If you have clear cutting of, let's say, about 70% of the area, but yet still you clear cut out the whole area, the 1 acre, and you're only using 40% of it. So that would put you at a level 1, because you are not saving the environment, you are not saving the species, you are not making use of the space properly. Moving right along, I think now we can go into the greenhouse gases reductions. Right, so the greenhouse gases deductions that I started accidentally because I went forward in the slides. Like I was telling you, for the fermentation aspect of it, the ruminant management, you would have just 1 second, 1 second. Management is this process of fermentation in the gut. You have a lot of burping, you have a lot of gas being emitted into the atmosphere. There are supplements that could be taken or given to the animals to suppress this, and this will cut back on the emission. Okay, you were saying?
No, you basically explained it. I just wanted to expand on the entry fermentation. So Ms. Ford already explained, but I can reiterate. So you have your ruminants, your small ruminants. Naturally, they would, in order for digestion of the sugars, during that process, there is the production of methane, which we know to be a greenhouse gas. So you want to ensure that, like Ms. Ford said, there are additives that you can use to ensure that those foods are more palatable and it's able to digest with reducing the amount of methane that is produced by those ruminants. So these need to be taken in consideration as it relates to the eccentric fermentation and the impact of that methane to the environment.
All right, so for the soil management, we have naturally occurring organisms in the soil that would assist in the breaking down of different gases, right? So if we keep on adding a lot of fertilizers, a lot of ureas, a lot of granular fertilizers, it will allow us to emit more fumes in the atmosphere. So if we cut back on this, you use your composting, your compost tea, you incorporate more of the manures into your soil structure. This will assist you in cutting back on the amount of volatile fumes that goes into the atmosphere. Fossil fuel use, this is pretty much straightforward. From the history of agriculture, if you don't use, for the biological aspect of it, you use coals, you use firewood, but being now that we are modern, we use a lot of fossil fuel. We use fossil fuel for everything, for the transportation aspect of it, for the lighting, for post-harvest handling. We use fossil fuel for everything. So what we are looking at doing presently is to evolve and transition from the use of fossil fuel alone to using solar panels. You could use hydro energy, you could use wind energy, right? Incorporated in your production vis-a-vis using only the fossil fuel. And for management of your manure, particularly in livestock, we have a lot of persons in the piggery industry. Piggery, you would have your piggery, you have your unit, your pen, you don't have a biodigestion, digester, right? You don't have one of these. We are operating close to a waterway. You wash your pen, what will happen? Where will the contaminants go to? Where is the waste going to? In the waterway. So, do you have any procedures on your farm to say, okay, I'm going to collect the waste, I'm going to be doing composting with it, I'll be doing some compost tea, or I know we mentioned about the monies, we've been complaining a lot about the monies, but our health is at a higher level than the monies in terms of priority. The health of our people is, pardon? No, because you are operating, your operation, you are making monies. Your livelihood, your lifestyle is increasing, whereas those persons who are downstream, they're getting sick because of their practices. So you have to take all that, and we have to be honest with ourselves as farmers, as or extension officers. We are aware of the situation. It is heartbreaking, right? So it looks to try and make people aware of the situation and what can be done to mitigate that aspect of it. So with the tool, if it's adapted, or when it is adapted, I should say, this would assist persons to get some merits in terms of, okay, I went through the process of establishing a biodigester in the area, so I am not adding to the problem of climate change. I mitigated it. Yes?
Adding the problem of climate change, right? You see, what you mean, some farmers will tell you now, their produce will be taking longer to bear than when they use the fertilizer from the exporter. You should have the urea, the NPK. Using, of course, yes. Listen to me. Using natural manure, your plant will take longer to bear. You will have a longer lifespan on the shelf, but your plants will take longer to bear the fruit for you. So farmers now will they have that patience to sit and wait for probably 3 months for that plant to bear fruit for them? We are not telling them cut out the granular fertilizer altogether right now. We are gradually, it's a gradual process. Now you are adding organic manure, you are adding compost, you are increasing the structure of the soil. So by the time you wean completely out of it, the structure of your soil will be able to support your production. Let's see. Yes. I hope so. Because I've been telling some farmers that they need to do their things, and they're telling me, boy, I say there's a lot of
the thing with our farmers, our mindset is quick buck.
Get
The
money.
quicker the span from production to the money aspect of it, that is our problem.
That's our main problem now.
You know why we need fertilizer in the soil? Because the soil is so degraded.
Because we don't add organic manure to it. When we till, we do heavy tillage.
We put that back in the soil by using natural things.
I beg your pardon?
Exactly.
We could put back natural fertilizer in the soil by using natural things. So
That is what we are trying to do right now. And you could do spot tillage, although commercially it may take a longer period of time, but always tilling every year for your cropping cycle, you are destroying the structure.
I would like to see that happening, but I know the farmers we are doing anything.
Well, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
There's a number of issues as well.
May I?
Yeah. Also.
Sure.
Sure.
So,
Guys, yeah, I was listening to the conversation about the use of a quick fix fertilizer. I mean, I think we are all very experienced people in this thing. So we know that nobody in their right mind is going to deliberately give up the use of what farmers like to call in Trinidad bearing salt to be using no compost, right? That's a non-starter. The real significance of this is that there are going to be times when you just cannot afford the fertilizer. And those times are coming. We experienced them during COVID. There was a little spike during but at the start of the war in Ukraine. So that this is not pie in the sky stuff. We're not telling people to deliberately cut off their nose to spite their face. We are saying that, look, there is a way to do this thing that over the long term will make more sense and more dollars. And that's the only selling point we have it. Because I don't think anybody in their right mind, right, who wants to stay alive, will go on a farm and tell me, wait, I think you should stop using fertilizer and wait 2 more months to get the produce. I mean, that's also the question. The idea is that we want to gradually inculcate those questions. Remember, CSAC is only about 20 questions, Every time you ask, you get a farmer to ask him or herself those 20 questions, you win. Because the mere idea that I'm asking myself the question about nutrients and about safety means I'm actually giving it some thought, which is not the case right now. People don't normally go about in this methodical kind of way asking themselves those 20 questions. So anytime we get purchase out of 10 of those questions or 6 of those questions, we're making progress. Remember, this is not something that is going to be, there's no imposition for non-compliance. I think somebody asked that earlier, We're not going to fire farmers for non-compliance. What I'm telling you is that the type of funding that I'm seeing going into the agricultural sector now, if you are not operating in a climate smart manner, when these funds come down to you, you are going to be last in the line. It's as simple as that, right? And I'm not telling tears out of school. This is where I'm doing most of my work. And I'm telling you that all of these grants, all of these funding opportunities, all of this support is going to be tied to climate, right? Regardless of where you are on this planet. And if you can show that you have been gradually weaning yourself off of these fertilizers and you're operating in a more climate smart manner, then the second aspect of the CSIDS thing, the authenticating, the auditing, is going to stand you in good stead. All right? I'm not asking farmers to take my word for it. I'm asking them to look around at the reality. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Mr. Max.
Thank you very much. That's great. Just my look.
Oh, Damien is back.
Damien is back. I'm back. You find that a lot of 80% of the world, G8 nations are the one producing all of the greenhouse gases at the end of the day. So as much as I like to believe that we are taking taking steps to reduce our strides in our reducing our carbon footprint and the fertilizers, trying to go down that. But what?
I can come across that shaking hand already. Because you see what you just described about who is responsible for the problem and what percentage of the problem you're responsible for. Let me just tell you that right now as we speak, the center of all the discussions in Baku have to do with this. Something called common but differentiated responsibility. And I really need to interrupt you for 2 minutes just to get our point straight. We know that we are only contributing a minute amount to the overall problem. Everybody agree with me?
Yes.
Right. So here's what the international community came up with many, many years ago. There is something called common but differentiated responsibility. What does that mean in English? Just imagine that you live in a residential area, right? I ain't saying you're living up in Cap or somewhere, and somebody decides to put up a factory higher up the hill from you. And in that factory, they keep dumping plastic bottles into the drain in front of your house. So eventually, the drain clogs. Every time it rains, your house floods out. So then you go up and you talk to the people in the country and say, hey, you are responsible for this, If you are putting all those plastic bottles into the drain, my house will be flooded. And then they tell you, we noticed one day, your son or daughter dropped one bottle into the drain. So you know what they're telling you? I know I'm responsible, but you are responsible as well. So you need to tell me how you're stopping your child from throwing that one bottle, and then I will see what I have to do about the other 999 bottles that I'm throwing out every day. So that's what is meant by common but differentiated responsibility. The international community has already told us that, yeah, we know we're responsible, but you're responsible too, even though it's a small amount. So they want to hear what you are doing to stop your child from putting that one plastic bottle into the drain before they decide to help you. Are you listening to me?
Yeah,
before they take this decision to be responsible. Because remember, this is a climate justice issue. This is not about, charity. When those big countries do a presentation of $50 million to citizens, it's not charity. This is basically a form of reparation. They are saying that, look, we know we are responsible for the problem. That is why we are providing this money as a grant or what have you. And I'm saying that they only do that if we can show that we are stopping our child from putting the one plastic bottle in the drain, and that is where the NDC is coming. Sorry to get into a big climate change lecture, but it makes sense if you understand what's going on in the world, right? So at this thing called the NDC, the National Independent Contribution, this is where we tell the world, as signatories to the Paris Agreement, how we are going to be cutting down on our emissions. Even though we know those emissions by themselves won't change the face of the earth. But it is our way of justifying and keeping our moral position. In other words, if you continue picketing the factory up the road and you don't stop your child from throwing that one plastic bottle in the drain, you lose the moral argument. So that where we are now, we are in a situation where we have signed on to this thing and we have to show how we are reducing our little one plastic bottle. So I know it sounds unfair, but if we are to continue playing this game that we're playing now, and if we are to continue accessing the funds that we earned, listen to me carefully here, not the funds that we're begging for, the funds that we earned, right? And I can tell you that one of the reasons why the CSIDS thing was developed is because I was around from the beginning, right? Even before the Paris Accord, I remember sitting down in South Africa with some farmer colleagues, and we were trying to get agriculture onto the negotiating table. It wasn't even there yet. So now that money is flowing to the sector, a lot of jokers are coming up with things called climate smart agriculture projects, and they're just greenwashing. That is what motivated me to spend the time to develop this thing, so that we now have a way of authenticating all those fly-by-night projects that some international agency is going to come up with and say this is climate smart agriculture. Right? So sorry for the long lecture, but I really think it's important if we are going to be understanding why we have to do what we're doing and how it gives us a higher moral ground for the transition that has to come. Because one way or the other, we're going to change the climate smart agriculture. Right? Because there will come a time, it might be in our productive lifetimes, when these chemicals are not going to be available. Because the fossil fuel industry would have been changed and to the extent where we are going to be using a lot of botanicals and so. Right? So it's not as if we're asking people to deliberately take a short-term view. No, we know this is where the world is spinning, and if you can either adapt on your own terms or wait until the hammer crashes up. Sorry, again, sorry for preaching, but I really feel very strongly about this, and I understand the thinking behind, statements like, we ain't for doing all that politically, how are we supposed to be worried about that for? Because we are the ones suffering. We are the ones who have to go through barrel. We are the ones, if you were living in St. Vincent last weekend, you'd have seen hundreds of waterfalls form all of a sudden, right? Right now, I live in Reda. Right now, we are experiencing some thunder showers. So that we are feeling the impact. So if there's a game that's being played worldwide, we have to be sure that we're in the game and we know how to play. Sorry. End of sermon.
Thank you. I was just in Revelation chapter 3 verse 10, because as far as I see
coming up the horseman.
It is, and then I'm looking at, you look at the political will at the end of the day. Our governments are willing to take the necessary changes or implement necessary policy to facilitate such. Because I'm looking at that, and I'll be frank and I'll be bold about it. We're not ready yet. We, right now, I'm not even going to use COVID, I would use the 9/11 world crisis. We have, even in the OECS, we have spent millions of dollars putting money into tourism, which we have known tourism is very much fickle at the end of the day, and yet still, we still don't learn. And then at the end of it all, I like the fact that we come up with these projects and to be climate smart agriculture and all of these things. But then you need the political will at the end of it all. We need the political will to say, hey, we are going to take this stance and we're going to stand by at the end of the day. But as I can see, we may start this, but elections is in the next year or so, and boom, the political will, whatever that the agenda will change. And the goal, from what I've seen, I've been in ministry for over 14 years, I have seen this goalpost shift with every administration. All these goalposts forever shifting. We had COVID, it will shift to one thing, and then we'll have something else come, and it will continuously shift. So when I go to meetings and trainings, I still ask myself that, what am I doing here when the goalpost is forever shifting time and time again? I rest my case, people enjoy this.
Okay, all right. So can I just quickly? I like the example you used about shifting goalposts, because that is something that I feel I understand a little bit too. Yeah, you guys are hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So this whole business about shifting goalposts, you know what that has to do with? That has to do with not knowing the rules. Because a lot of times I talk to colleagues, not only former footballers and people who understand football and things, but they keep telling them what they want an even playing field. That's rubbish, I don't need an even playing field. What I need to know is to know the rules of the game. Because if the playing field is slanted, and I know that we play in two halves, I know in the first half, I kick it downhill, that's when I go in all out attacking, right? And I know that how I'm going to play in the second half. The idea is to know the rules. And what I'm telling you here is that we are involved in an aspect of this agriculture game where we are learning the rules. And if we learn the rules and we can anticipate them, that is how we survive. And I'm not just making this stuff up. So I'm telling you that I remember Trinidad was about to qualify for the World Cup. Right? One last match against the US, not the World Cup and the Gold Cup, right? Because they knew the rules, they decided they would play the match in Chicago. In Colorado, sorry. Coldest friggin' place in Colorado, right? They know that the rules say that they must be able to use the field the day before. So the day before, they let us practice on the field, and all them fellas went there with their short stunts, and then the day of the match, they water the field, and the fellas were playing in a soggy field. They get a tail cut, as they probably would have, but the idea is that when you know the rules, you are able to operate properly. So that I'm saying that when you know the rules, when you play in Trinidad, you're supposed to play them midday in the hot sun, and not 5 o'clock in the evening when you get one ticket sales. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maxine. Nicholas,
so if we're going to wrap up with manure/waste management, essentially in a climate smart operation, you would want to ensure that you minimize your waste, and if not eliminate it completely. So you want to, if you have manure as a byproduct, you want to incorporate that into compost, so that manure is not wasted and you have the release of methane and the other harmful organic gases that would contribute to the depletion of the environment. Essentially, that's what you want to do as it relates to the waste and manure management.
So on that note, we'll take our 10-minute break, which is long overdue, and we'll come back in at 12, and then yes. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Can you all follow me to the kitchen, please?
Mr. Martinez? Yes, we're having a break now.
You have the manual-based training. You have the Excel-based in terms of what runs in the background of the app to make it work. And then you have the app. So we will do the manual. Presently, Nicholas will be doing the manual. And after lunch, we will just run through the app and how it's operating. Okay?
After lunch? Yeah. I'm just going to do one thing. How long
What?
is the
That's about an hour.
It's basically the manual and the app.
The same thing. The manual probably, the manual will take some time, but the app, we probably could run through the app in 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's 12, so at 2, we can just.
Okay, alright.
Is that, can I get some consensus on this, everybody? What? We're thinking to just do everything so we can wrap up by 2 and we can leave. So instead of having lunch and then come back to do the app?
That's doing everything?
Yes. What?
Yeah.
Since we just had the break, I think we can hold on. Okay, alright, thank you
So
very
what's
much.
the time now?
12.
Alright, so I have
12.
Pardon?
12.
I'm passing you all on to Mr. Nicholas. It's just that, and then you have to go through the. Oh, you want me to put it on? Okay. Project study. It's going to take everything. No, you have to go for that. Yeah. So we got an ingenious way of keeping the time. Yes. We will put the app, he will explain it, and we'll run through the app.
So basically we're doing a dry run indoors and tomorrow we'll do the
okay? Alright.
Yes,
Second. Beg your pardon? It's in my bag somewhere. Randy, I need your assistance. I need this screen to show. I need this screen to show. Because it was everything to show on there. So, can you adjust it?
Alright, so you all can follow off of the screen. Alright, it's a bit busy in my eyes, but.
Yeah, it can.
I got eyes and
Oh my goodness.
Alright, so as we can see, we have just a brief summary of how to use the app. So we stated earlier that it has a list of 20 questions and 5 main topics with 4 subdivisions. So that would be the first step. You would provide your responses to those questions. Second step, and at the end of you provide in your responses, the system would generate cumulatively the score. So we can start the dry run of the Okay, so for the first one would be resource conservation. So we mentioned what resource conservation was earlier. Do anyone need clarification as to what exactly it is? Or can we continue? So under resource conservation, which generally would be maintaining the environment as it relates to the land. So we can see here your land use. So we spoke of it earlier, whether 70% of your land is clearfield, but you only using, well, let's say 70% of your land is clearfield, but you're only cultivating at 40% of that land. So,
sorry, 70% of the land is what?
Clearfield.
Clearfield.
What's
so,
clearfield?
So you have an acre of land. You cut down 3/4 of that acre, and then you're only utilizing 1/4 of what you cleared. You understand?
Clearfield is cutting down the resource, clearing the land, keeping it there. Yeah.
Okay. So in this system, you will see that you have one, because you're not utilizing that land efficiently. So with climate smart agriculture, what you would want to do is utilize your land effectively. So if you go on the excellent end of it, you will see that less than 20% of your land is not, less than 29% of your land not cultivated, intensive cropping system, and I cannot make out the last
It's a lens.
Just read from the computer, go on that side and read from the
Do you have the documents?
Yeah.
It's a project. I think it's a project.
Yeah, the resolution is not.
So basically what it's saying is that about 29% of your land is cleared, and under that 29% it's under production. You don't have land, just you're not wasting fuel clearing land, and you don't have use for it. Yes, so you mentioned it earlier on. So our farm, how would we rate our farm? We just have a random farm. Would we rate it
So we
as?
are the managers of the farm presently. So where would we rate ourselves? More than 70% of the land area clear-fed and exposed, and then you have cultivation of only 40%. Level 2 would be 50 to 69% of the land clear-fed and exposed, and you do extensive farming, right? You are still not making the maximum use of the property, right? Then you have an average, a level 3, 40% to 49% land area clear-fed, exposed, and you're still doing extensive cropping on the remainder.
Level 3.
Average. So average?
Yeah.
Now before we do this, it's not shown on that, but in using the app, when you are on the app, particularly if you're on your mobile phone, it will have a drop down to show you all 20 questions and your progress. You have the keys at the bottom that will indicate the next, or if you want to go back, or if you want to start the assessment over. Alright? So we do it.
So we chose average.
Yes. So let me just bring that down. Sorry. Oh my God. Thank you, Randy. I don't have one. Oh my gosh. Okay. Right. So it's really. I'm not even seeing. Are y'all seeing the mouse?
Cursor?
The cursor, I'm not seeing it.
Look at this.
Okay, alright. I can
Yeah,
Guys.
Like I can do that because
Okay.
So our
That's me.
you need that.
So you need to enter the free and not select free. That's what you do. If you select that option.
No, when you select the option, it automatically generates it at the bottom for you. So all you have to do is just punch next. Okay? So I'm going down this.
So our next category and resource conservation will be your water use. So pumping of water from source to irrigation furrows. So basically, for the purpose of, in the interest of time, I will basically run through the minimum and maximum scores, and then we can just look at the average. Yeah. So when you compare pumping from the water source using and you irrigating using furrow irrigation.
We have to give them the background into the question. The background into the question, so we need to go through this before we go through this. Okay, alright.
Yeah. So you understand why someone using furrow irrigation, because furrow irrigation, you have a huge trench and you have water in that trench. So you know you have a lot of evapotranspiration. So you're losing a lot of, you're not making efficient use of that water compared to someone who is using drip irrigation. They have precision irrigation. That water is delivered to the root zone of the plant. You have less wastage. So I think that one is fairly simple to understand why you demand an excellent score for someone who is using precision irrigation compared to someone who is using sprinklers. Yes. So how do we rate our farm?
So before we move forward, do we have just crops or are we doing crops and livestock? Do we have an integrated? We were hoping to have livestock there, but unfortunately we had a clashing event, so they were not able to be there today, but they will be there tomorrow. So this is the crop aspect. So in the manual you have crops, you have the livestock aspect, and you have both of them combined, right? But on the app, you will only see the crop aspect because it has not gone so far as yet, right? So just to elaborate on what he's saying before we take a decision, right? The livestock aspect of it will tell you less than 10% of the land space is being used in production. Then you have another one that would be the fair, would be 11 to 30% of the land space used for production purposes. Then you have 39 to 50%, so it just keeps on giving you the gradients, and which one you would see suit best, you will select it for your production. Okay?
So, just a question, for livestock, why you still reference land space? Because they expect if you have a 5 acre plot.
There is a carrying capacity for livestock. Now that's why I would rather the livestock officers to be there, because personally we are not livestock officers, and that is why we wanted them to be there. So part of that, in terms of the terminology that they use in it, they will be able to expound a little bit better for us. So if you have more than an acre, and you have cows, you have goats, you have sheep, there is a carrying capacity for the land space in terms of the paddocks, your pastures, your grazing and everything. So let's just say you have an acre, and that acre, the capacity for the cattle is, let's say it's 4 cattle for an acre. But you're using that entire acre of land, you clear it and everything, you have grass and water, but you only have 1 cow. It does not make sense. In terms of production, efficiency of using the resource, it does not work.
I'm just wondering, would more food build that one?
Yes, but you're gonna invest a whole acre of crops that you cut down, you use fossil fuel to do it, and then you have 1 cow grazing on that. How much will you get back from that 1 cow? You have machinery, yeah. You have to plant grass.
can I say you're looking at the type of breed of the animal that you're dealing with? Because because some breeds can literally, you know, just to sell those breeds, some breeds the resale value of that breed can be sometimes 3 times the amount.
Most of the reproductive traits, sorry to interject here, I think, but so the livestock people are not there, but livestock is my area of expertise. So it's mostly the reproductive traits of the cattle will drive the price, not really the reproductive traits will help you gauge its productivity. But if it's not in the right environment, it may not thrive. So you may have an animal that has good meat carcass, good milking abilities, good mothering abilities, but they're not in the right environment, so you wouldn't get that productivity.
So, but I'm just saying that, and you're totally right. But then if you have a number of, like you have 4, wouldn't that in a sense create put pressure on the resources that's available on that 1 acre? I'm just saying,
You have to do it with that one.
There's capacity.
That's what I'm getting. Per animal.
Square footage.
It's just
Per
like,
animal,
Yeah, per animal.
I'm not sure if my analogy would make sense. It's just like 14 passengers to a bus to Castries, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to put 4, but you want 4 big persons?
Yeah.
You want 40 persons, you just put 4, a number of animals per.
My few ladies
Persons, I said, I didn't, yeah.
Damien, do you understand?
I get it.
I'm back to you.
Okay, so can we just go as to our water efficiency use, whether we're using rinse?
We pumping water with overhead.
Alright, so what we will do, that will make it easier, we'll use the concept of a typical farm in St. Lucia.
Tiffany, bring it up. Yeah.
Alright, so average farmer is using overhead irrigation.
Sprinkler, operation.
Yeah.
Livestock and
So what number was it?
just a dry.
2. So let's see, let's
Okay, hold on.
But the average farmer
Okay. In St. Lucia, the two largest production areas are the Maki area and looking at the Force-Jacques area.
and Van crops.
Okay.
Several
Okay.
which aspect, crops or?
But in the sense of rainfall, these places are more in a, I would say, in the high rainfall area. So I would have selected 3. If you're looking at go back to rainfall and cancer, I would have selected 3. Because cocks alone can flood the market. Polycyclists can flood the market.
You're going out of the realm of what you have to do. You are assessing your activities on the farm.